This is AV Week, episode number 16, recorded November 18th, 2011. Squirrel!
Ready.
AV Week.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AV Week. AV Week. It's time for AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of news and information for the AV industry. I'm your host, Tim Albright. With us this week is Adrian Boyd, the president, chief dishwasher, and everything else for Vector Sketch. How are you doing, Mr. Adrian?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Craig McCormick is over in Beantown. He is with the Commercial Integrator Magazine. Hello, Craig.
Hey, Tim. How's it going?
Good. And I am pleased to introduce a man, a myth, a legend in the AV industry. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Kay.
Yay! Totally excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you, dude. I will say this: when you and I have a lot of the similar backgrounds, because you have a mass comm degree, you've worked with a lot of different companies, but your main thing is you are kind of the online publishing hub for AV stuff. So you've got video, you've got you're the blogs. You have, as a matter of fact, I think I've had almost every single one of your blog squatters on, but one or two people.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know they enjoyed it.
Well, they're good people too. I mean, people like George and Johnny Moda and Dawn, and I don't want to leave anybody else out, so I'm going to stop mentioning them.
And I have to say, Johnny Moda's double awesome.
He is double. He is double 10K awesome. That whole.
Sure.
I don't know how you. I don't even think I have 1,000 tweets, let alone 20,000. So.
Yeah, it's dedicated time.
It is definitely. We are recording this on the 18th of February. 1 week from today is Black Friday. We will take a look at some of the stuff. This comes from us from CNN Money. Walmart has already released their Black Friday circular. They're opening up, I believe, at 10 p.m. on Thursday. So Thanksgiving evening, they're opening up at 10 o'clock. We'll start with you, Adrian. What does this mean for not only obviously for not pro guys, but for the resi guys? You've got a day here that is dedicated to cheap electronics. Yes.
Whenever you see these Black Friday specials and deals, I mean, you just think in your mind, oh my gosh, the craziness that ensues. I mean, they just had a report of a lady lining up at a Best Buy 9 days before it's even started. So, it's cheap electronics to get people through the doors. You watch the insanity ensue, and it just further confirms that margins in AV are just getting smaller and smaller. So, you just kind of look at it and go, okay, I'm not going to wait in line to get a good deal on a TV. Save me $100 or something. I'll sit back and watch the chaos ensue. So it is what it is.
Gary, is this something that commercial guys should worry about? I mean, you got $100 50-inch plasmas, maybe. I hope.
Well, first, I'd like to invite all of the Occupy Wall Streeters to camp out for me so that I don't have to actually be at the door of Best Buy because, hey, since they got kicked out of the park, it'd be nice and convenient if they'd be willing to do that. But in any case, actually, no, I think it's good for commercial. I think that the what's happened right now in the industry, if you take a look at where we were 10 or even 15 years ago versus now, is that we've turned from a trickle-down industry to a trickle-up. So the stuff that happens in the home eventually comes to the commercial side as opposed to the other way around where it used to be the commercial side sort of launch things and it trickled down to the home. So as people see and are capable of doing things in their home and they want to do them on the commercial side, whether it be simplicity or ease of access or the technology itself, it sort of is good because I think ultimately these people ask for us to do the same thing in the commercial side. So it drives both technology and it also drives interest in the sort of the higher end version of those products.
So it drives the market almost.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question in it. I mean, a Best Buy is good for the market. You don't want them to go away because you need all this consumer technology easy to have access to, so that more it gets in more people's hands. I mean, the best thing that's happened to our industry, for example, is the Apple Store, because that stuff has trickled up to many different levels of our industry. Everything from control systems to signal routing and distribution simplicity, and it's when somebody does it on a small scale, they're eventually going to want it on a big scale.
So Craig, should all the commercial guys go out and camp out at 3 o'clock in the morning, or not even 3 o'clock? You know, Walmart opens at 10 on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I can't speak for what they're going to do, but I can tell you I won't be there. I'm one of those guys who shops towards the end of December, right before Christmas.
So you're that guy.
I guess I am that guy.
The panic on the 24th.
Not quite the 24th, but maybe the 23rd. So
my dad used to do that every year. He would go in and shop for my mom's Christmas present on the 24th. It was like a tradition for him.
Yeah,
I don't know if it started by accident or not, but that is what he used to do. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where this is good for the industry. It generates interest, like Gary was saying, but it's just never been anything I've been all that interested in camping out, and I really don't understand why they need to do it on Thanksgiving. I mean, Black Fridays, it's fine with me. I live less than 5 miles from a big shopping center, and I went once, and it took me an hour to get 4 miles to the shopping center. So. Yeah, so that not my sort of thing, but I can certainly understand why people get into it, and it definitely is good to get people talking about the industry. So.
One of the hot, I guess, at least most promoted Christmas presents of the year is the Kindle Fire. And Dan Rayburn in AV Technology wrote a piece that says basically the Kindle Fire will be to video what the iPod was to music. And he goes on to say, the Amazon has 12,000 movies and TV shows, and they've got the books and stuff like that. I don't know Dan. It's a fine written piece. I just think he might be a little bit overreaching here. And here's the reason why. The iPod was not a great piece of the iPod was a great piece of technology. Let's start with that. At least that's my opinion. But what made it revolutionary was not the fact of the iPod, because there had been other MP3 players. What made it revolutionary for the music industry was the fact that Steve Jobs had the ability to corral all the music industry and say, hey, you know what? They're ripping you off blind. You might as well come to my store anyway. So unless Amazon has that same chutzpah, I don't know that it's the same thing. I think what probably a little bit more equal and more apt comparison would say, if Apple can corral the movie industry the way they did the music industry, I would say the iPad is more of an equivalent to the iPod than the Fire. Gary, what do you think about the Fire?
I think it's very well positioned to be a very strong product. It'll be the first tablet type device that will compete with the iPad. However, it's going to fulfill a different segment of the market. There are people that don't, for example, like the size of the iPad. Well, now they have a choice because everything else they had a choice for before sucked. And then there are people that want even simpler version of an iPad, and this is an option for them. There are people who primarily wanted an iPad as an alternative to the black and white grayscale e-reader, and this is a good opportunity for them to get into that because it's color, and they want something that does some of what the iPad does, but doesn't need all the complex functionality. So I think it'll be a great number two, but it's definitely not going to overtake. Definitely going to overtake the iPad, and it's definitely not going to be what the iPod was to music. I agree with what you said about that. There's something else that should be mentioned is that what the iPod did, like you said, wasn't the hardware. It was the user interface was really the key. So they could have even done what they did and been successful, even if they didn't have access to the content originally. The way that it was compiled and used, people may not remember back when Napster was around, how difficult that was to compile music in comfortably and all different forms of music and keep it running all the time because there was always a moving target. whereas the iTunes user interface was awesome. The iPad is the same way. The user interface is awesome, and Amazon took the best functionality of it, copied it, which is what they should have done, and created. They took Google's open standard and closed it like Apple does with the iPod and with the iPad. So they took an open standard, closed it, made it simpler by closing it and not allowing everybody and their brother to build apps on it except the ones they want, and they're going to have a successful product because of it.
Do you think that will hurt them, though?
Amazon?
Well, yeah. Do you think that will hurt? Because one of the things that I'm looking at this, because it is based on Android, and one of the cool things about Android, especially when you're talking about iPad comparisons, is one of the coolest apps for me and for AV industry guys are the AMX and the Crestron, and eventually when Extron releases theirs, their control apps. So if you've got a device that's $300 cheaper, I mean that's significant right there. If I can throw an AMX app or an Extron control app on there, I'm sold. Okay,
but see, here's the difference. First of all, I don't think they really care about our segment of the market, so therefore the iPod will dominate that. The iPad, because the iPad already has those apps. But because what they did was they took an open standard, closed it, and took control of it, which is they basically turned what was open and made it more like Apple's done, where they have a closed architecture and they have to approve every app. One nice thing you can do is, for example, Crestron and AMX could optimize a user interface using the browser.
Yeah, that's true.
And because that's a closed system with a very controlled browser environment, if for example, Amazon doesn't want an app to be built for them because they may not care about our industry, they could build a browser, an Amazon Fire optimized browser based control interface. And as long as it's connected to the network, then you've got a winner. So I don't think you're going to not see apps. I think you might just see a different version of the app for a different type of usability of the app. Because once the network is omnipresent and everywhere, it doesn't really matter if you're connected or not, because you'll just be there.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that the Kindle Fire is trying to leverage is the cloud. I mean, it only has 8 gigabytes of internal storage. That gets sucked up pretty fast if you have a lot of content. So they're hoping that you're going to use their cloud storage system to put all of your content on it. But of course, that only works if you've got Wi-Fi access. So, sitting on the airplane, you want to watch a movie and, oh, gee, I don't have it downloaded. You're out of luck when you compare it to, an iPad. Your entry level is 16 gigabytes. You have a lot of storage. You can fill up a lot of things. There's some cool things about what, Amazon's doing with their Kindle products. I mean, their lending library, if you can think of it, is kind of a cool, thought. If you read a lot of books, you don't want to buy books, you can, kind of rent them out. They're really trying to leverage that whole Amazon Prime subscription plan that they have with free content and books and so on. So it's going to fit a lot of people that don't want to live in the Apple ecosystem. I mean, because when you think of Apple, it really is an ecosystem. But
and so is Amazon, though. I mean, that's the Kindle ecosystem is an ecosystem itself.
But what's interesting is, you can buy a Kindle book, but I've got an app on an iPad to read Kindle books. I can download music from, the Amazon music library, and it's an MP3 format, so it's going to work regardless. The only place it really gets kind of sketchy is when you get into movie content, because of what they're doing with purchasing movies and streaming content is way different than what Apple does. So those are really the two big things that aren't going to talk to each other very well is movies.
Well, and see, that's where I think that this guy might have a point, because if you take the Fire part out and you just look at the Kindle ecosystem, and let's talk about content in general, you've got if they can develop and get the, let's say that the movie and the video industry, let's just blanket it, TV and movies both, if they can get them to sign on to this, then they have a revolutionary. Not because of the Fire, but because of their store. And I could be wrong on this because I haven't read all of the different accessories you can buy with Fire. But I can take an iPad and I can buy a $20 or $30 little device, and I can show it on anything that has an HDMI connection, content protected or not. I can't do that, I believe, with the Fire. But if they can work out a deal with their content creators, then they have something revolutionary. Then they've got something that it doesn't matter if you have an iPad or a Fire, you can play their content. Then Amazon has something golden, I think.
Yeah, well, what you're gonna see. Here's when Hollywood's going to accept all this when it's only being played from the cloud. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We would all like to believe that they're going to let us download content and play it on an airplane. But when Hollywood's going to sign off on all this is when it's only content on the cloud. That's the way they want it. They either want you to buy a hard copy of it on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, or it's on the cloud. So really Amazon is sort of a step ahead in that standpoint because it's only on the cloud. But of course, the iPad is that way too with iTunes. I mean, that's how you stream stuff. Of course, you can rent it, and that's the part of it that Hollywood doesn't like. The fact that Apple has the renting capability, they don't want that. They'd rather you have to rent it in real time because Hollywood would rather that be that way because they like the control aspect of it because they can cut you off anytime you want. Whereas with Apple, they can't. That's why the ability to buy the ability to stream television shows disappeared the way it did. So what you're going to see is more and more movement towards the cloud. Eventually, you'll have hard drives that you don't have very big hard drives on anything or drive storage space on anything because the cloud will just always be there. So I think that they'll succeed because there are some consumer applications. And really good point on Adrian's side is that there are people that just don't like Apple. There's those obsessive Microsoft people or that Apple haters that will buy it just because they just want to be able to say they don't have anything Apple, so they'd rather struggle their life along without it. So.
And what's really interesting when we talk about content, I mean that's what Ultraviolet essentially is supposed to be, this cloud-based system where you can download any device you want, have multiple accounts, and you do streaming, and you have a disc, and you get the download of it, and if you look at the last top 10 titles that have come out in the last 6 weeks, they have that Ultraviolet component to them. And if Kindle is able to leverage part of that, then they're really going to have something, to work with because, Apple's not even looking at that, world right now.
No, they're not. All right. From Commercial Integrator, the person that's on from Commercial Integrator wrote a piece called "Will Roscoe's Shift to Consulting Pay Off?" And basically, Craig goes on to say they are getting out of the box sale business. I think it's. I mean, I don't know that we have to have a press release from them to kind of figure that part out. I mean, everything must go means everything must go, right? Goodness. But basically, he goes on to ask a question, which I'll start with you, Craig, and ask: is this going to work? Is this going to save Roscore, and is this going to save other companies that are primarily box sales to get out of the box sale business and more into the consulting?
Personally, I don't believe so. I think in this particular case, I think it sounds like the company may be too far gone to save itself. It may work in other cases, but I think in this particular case with Roscore, it may be that that this may be just kind of a face-saving sort of move that they're they're trying to stay afloat as long as they can, and I just can't see how they can survive making that big of a shift in their business after this long, and especially losing about 3/4 of their employees or letting go about 3/4 of their employees at the same time. Your name can only carry you for so long, and they have a decent customer base, I suppose, and they'll continue to have some loyalty from those. But when their customers realize they don't do most of the things they used to do for them, they're probably going to lose those customers as well.
Well, let me ask you this: they basically they have 30 people left out of 130.
Right. But
are they just you don't think that just because they're not selling the product, because these guys were end to end suppliers, they would come in, they would design the system, and then they would sell you the product. Well, just because they're not doing one aspect of it now, you don't think that would save them? Because there's no margins. I mean, all of us. I mean, Gary's been writing for years about how all the product has been margins have been shrinking. We've talked on this show for months about how the margins have been shrinking. That's one aspect, so they get rid of that part.
Yeah, I can see your point. I just think maybe things are a little bit worse than they're actually letting on, and that's why they're being sort of secretive about exactly what they're doing. I've seen it described a couple of different ways. as far as kind of what their approach to business is going to be, and kind of what the standing is, and how many employees are left, and that sort of thing. So I just in this particular case, I just don't know how they're going to be able to stay afloat for too long. I mean, maybe for a while it'll be successful, but I think after a while, people seem to be looking for more end-to-end sort of solutions, and have somebody that can do it all from beginning to end. And I think Ross Corp is not able to do that anymore.
Well, and then that's true. Adrian, what do you think? Do you think this will save them, or can this save other companies? Maybe not Rosscore, but somebody's who's floundering in the business, who's a box sale company. Could they go into the consulting company?
I think it kind of depends on where you are in the market you're trying to hit. I mean, already, as a quasi consulting firm, myself, it's tough, especially when you look at when you talk to architects and you look at the AIA's current numbers, for the last 3 to 4 months, billing has been pretty flat in the architectural field, and when a lot of your work is kind of derived by partnering with architects and being the first one in. If they're not doing work, you're not doing work. Yeah. When we have a lot of consultants in the industry that are looking at ways to maximize their operation, some have scaled back, some are kind of the status quo, some are doing very, very well. But as a whole, I don't think they're going to make it shifting, as a design build firm into a strictly consulting firm. If they do, they may only have 5 people. They're not going to have 30 people because it's just, companies are starting to I wouldn't say implode, but they're definitely getting smaller. That being said, there's still a lot of companies out there looking for skilled AV design engineers. People who can work in CAD, who can do project management, who can design systems from top to bottom. So, the skills for individuals are being actively sought. But as our industry has kind of changed, at least in these last few years, I don't think how they're going at it, they're really going to last. If they do, all the best to them. But from what we're reading, I don't think it's going to happen for them.
Gary, you followed this probably as close as anybody else did, closer than I did, because I just got stories here and there from a couple, from George and from Michael Drainer, my integrator buddy, who know people inside Rosscore. Do you think them moving to a consulting-based company, first of all, is going to happen? Do you think that this is going to help them or hurt them?
Well, here's the thing. The consulting side of the industry is, margin-wise, a hell of a lot more healthier and profitable than the integrator side of the business, with the exception of a few companies that specialize in super high-end integration. So if you take a look at the margin dollars, the money's there. And the question of whether or not they'll succeed is totally dependent on if they have good designers. They do have a brand, so they have the ability to leverage the brand, and they can go to their current installed client base and say, we have been doing integration for years and years and years, and you don't need us because you can get this stuff online. But what you do need us for is for designing systems, because you can buy this stuff anywhere, but you can't buy that intellectual property, a customized design. So if they can explain that, and they do have good designers, they can be as successful as any design consulting firm is and has been, because it's, like I said, it's the most profitable part of the market that we are in right now, more profitable than the manufacturers.
Well, and there is the other thing. The margins on that are what you make it. It's not like you have, AMX or Kramer saying, this is how much you need to sell it for, or you can have it, you can go buy it at Best Buy. Your margins are what you want them to be and what the market will bear.
Well, yeah, and you put in products that don't have list prices, or put in products that are, you're customizing an install you're customizing a design for whatever the right application is. And there's a lot to be said for doing that, being brand, not being brand specific, meaning what design firms are supposed to do, not all of them do it, but what they're supposed to do is say, here's product A, product B, product C, and you can substitute product A for this, product B for this, product C for this. And the substitute, as long as it's equal, they can substitute it. But dealers that do design consulting as well as sell the products obviously spec their own gear. They're not going to spec a brand they can't get a hold of. So if they're not a BiAmp dealer, they're not going to spec a BiAmp in. But in the case of Rosscore now, they're not product dependent, so they can spec anything they want, just like a traditional design firm. So if they turn themselves into a traditional design firm, if that's in fact what they decide they want to do and they do it, then more power to them. We'll help them. We'll help them get their name out there. We'll help promote them and do whatever we can. I think that the industry's value is in the intellectual property, not the gear necessarily.
Yeah. From AVinteractive.co.uk, I like reading people outside the U.S. because it gives me a different perspective. They chronicle this DOOH installation that a company did for Green Giant. And if you're not familiar with what Green Giant is, you're either older or younger than I am. But Green Giant is kind of the spokesman for a vegetable company. They make freeze frozen vegetables and stuff, and actually they did canned ones as well. But this was an installation where it's kind of an augmented reality deal where people could go up, they'd walk up to this screen, and they'd step on this spot. And the Green Giant would appear to them, not next to them, obviously, but on this big screen. And then the whole idea was that you had to give the Green Giant, who's, he's a giant for crying out loud, so he's taller than you. But you had to give him 5. You had to slap his hand. And if you did so, then some fireworks went off. What I think is interesting, one thing that this is also outside the food court at a mall, which is ironic, but the whole idea here, though, and the thing that I think is cool is the interactivity of digital signage. And Gary, you're a big cheerleader for digital signage because, and I agree with you because that's an aspect that the AV integrators haven't, I don't think, still have grasped a hold of or taken the bull by the horns, as it were, and really, really worked it and really, really done it well. And here's an installation where, here's something that an AV company could do over and above and better than an IT company, and IT guys are the ones who's eating our lunch.
Yeah, it's really sort of a two-part question, right? This particular install or this application's been done a lot in malls to demonstrate augmented reality and how you can see yourself with characters that you may like or think are cool on a screen, even though they're not there in real life. And it's a neat way to introduce augmented reality to people who don't have iPhones or don't have applications on their phones that use augmented reality. But the bigger question I think you were asking was digital signage. It drives me nuts that the AV industry has not taken advantage of the growth of the digital signage. By far growing faster than any other segment of the AV market. And you're right, the IT companies are eating their lunch.
Craig, do you think this is something that AV guys can do? And is a not a niche, but a niche that we can do that IT guys can't.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's definitely something that the AV guys would definitely have more expertise in and be able to handle a little bit better, and they definitely should be. The more people you can expose to different technologies and different ideas, and the better, certainly. And this is definitely one way to expose kids to digital signage, even though they may not know that it's digital signage. I'm sure they'll remember it and kind of think about it and be looking for it in other places, and that just opens up more opportunities for people to do similar installations in other places. So.
Adrian, we use Delicious for our links, and on the little tag I put, I think I wrote down something to the effect of a holodeck. Is this my introduction to a holodeck?
Well, probably, but I first have to say, ho, 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 Green Giant.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It was kind of neat. This was like a limited time advertising. It was
like 3 days.
Segment. Yeah. So they played it up. You had to get your kids there to interact with this. So sticking in the food court. I'm sure that the mall saw increased traffic, and that always hopefully transfers into dollars for the various companies in the mall. This is kind of cool. To interact. I take my kids to the mall, and they have those little mats on the ground. They've got the projector, and they kick the soccer balls. So anything that gets kids interacting usually will get parents interacting, And it's good for integrators to get involved in this type of thing. I say go for it, all power. But it's just finding those clients and getting with the individuals to make these things happen. And sometimes it's not everybody's in the right place to get involved with these things. So, it'll be interesting to see these types of things happen here in North America. I think they happen a lot more overseas than they do here, because I haven't really seen very many of this type of application. It's the first I've read about it, and it's, out of Europe. I haven't seen very many like this happen here, other than the, kind of the, as Gary said, with the iPhones or the Android, where, oh, cool, look at this, I can follow a map. So, this is definitely the way, advertising is going to start going, and it's going to be involving, all walks of life. And this would be cool.
No.
So yes, holodecks, they're coming.
Thank you. I'm hopeful, at least. So, you're listening to. Go ahead.
Oh, it sounds like it's one of those things that starts with one application, and then, especially where kids are involved, they're going to come to expect it in other places, and that's just going to mean that more companies are going to want to do it and going to have to do it. Like I said, it's going to make for more opportunities for AV integrators to have some work here.
Yeah, I mean, this would be great in like zoos, in museums where you could have a museum. We're going to have a pirate exhibit. We're going to take you inside the ship, and you can have them walk around it and do essentially now we're taking the Disney Imagineering out of Disney, and we're putting it into smaller scale applications where you can interact with it a lot more.
Well, speaking of Disney, that's something. And when was the last time I was at Disney? A year ago, Christmas. I've never seen anything like this at Disney, and that surprises me, actually. The fact that the technology is available and Disney doesn't have it. So, I don't know.
You wonder if it's going to have any sort of application with, rather than an actual Santa Claus at the mall, if you'll have a Santa Claus hologram or an Easter Bunny hologram.
Oh, now you're just being sacrilegious.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I can't sit on a virtual Santa
And they'll all sound like Surrey.
Exactly.
Nice. Oh, goodness. You're listening to AV Week. With us this week is Gary Kay from Rave Pubs. He is the founder and chief pubber. Adrian Boyd is from Vector Sketch, and Craig McCormick is my favorite Red Sox fan. He is from Commercial Integrator. We started something a few weeks ago. We're going to continue it. It is the AV Week Job of the Week. So if you are in need of a job, either you have one and you don't like it, or you're simply out of work, stay tuned, because right after that, we're going to be talking about solar panels that you can paint on, the Android remote control wars, and monster cables, my favorite cable in the entire world. It's time for the AV Week Job of the Week. This week we'll start across the pond with our good friend Pat Deely from avjobs.co.uk. Hello, Pat.
Hello, Tim. How are you?
I am doing well. This week, what is your job for this week?
Well, again, a lot of choice, but I've plumped for one up in Scotland for a project engineer, so someone with experience of engineering and installing audiovisual projects in both education, public sector and private sector. And obviously with good audiovisual experience, he's looking to manage projects. So it's the first step before a project manager, it's a project engineer, preferably based in Edinburgh or Glasgow or that way, rather than up in the wilds of Scotland. Salary is up to 35,000, plus there's a company car and some benefits. If they'd like to apply for that, anyone liking to apply for that should contact David at avjobs.co.uk, because my colleague David Gallagher is looking after this particular role.
Okay. So it is a project engineer in either Edinburgh or Glasgow, Scotland. For that job, if you're interested in that one, contact David at avjobs.co.uk. If that one doesn't fit your fancy, but you are an AV professional in either England, Ireland, Scotland, or even down through the Middle East, go ahead and give them a look if you would. The website again is avjobs.co.uk. Thank you very much, Pat.
Thanks, Tim. Talk to you soon.
With us again is Marty Rabin from avjoblistings.com. Hello, Marty.
How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing good. Everything's well here in New York City.
Do me a favor. Give me a how you doing.
How you doing?
There we are. See, us guys in St. Louis, we don't have stuff like that. We just say, how are you? Are you having a nice day? We're very vanilla. So.
We definitely have a different accent out here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even think you can call what we have an accent. I'm serious, dude. I don't know. We're very one of my old broadcasting teachers when I first started in college said, if you live in the Midwest, consider it fortunate because you have a very vanilla, accent. You don't sound like you're from the South. You don't sound like from the Northeast or from California. And the more people I talk to, I'm like, you know what? I'm freaking boring.
No, you guys over there have great accent, man. You have great accents as well. So we, anything outside of New York City to me is an accent.
Well, yeah, I'll give you that. So, all right, you have a really cool job listing. We about a month or so ago, we started talking to Pat Deely over across the pond. Great website. Her website though is more for Europe and Middle East, but Marty's website is all about the good old United States. And so what job do you have for us this week, Marty?
Today I'd like to highlight a job that's coming out of the Research Triangle in Raleigh, the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area. There's a company out there by the name of Audiovisual Concepts. They're great people. I've actually been there myself. Personally, I've met their folks, and they have a great company culture. They're very dedicated to the AV industry and what they're doing. They're very diligent in the work that they perform. They make sure to do everything with a professional standard and a quality of work that I think the AV industry should be proud of this company, definitely. And today, I want to highlight a position they're looking to fill. They're looking for an AV engineer out there. That area is ripe with work. There's a lot of companies that are located in the Research Triangle area. A lot of .com companies, a lot of Coca-Cola, for instance, is out there. There's a huge host of industries out there represented, and because of that, there's a great need for video conferencing and for AV technology altogether. And they're looking for an AV engineer. They're looking for someone with at least 5 years of experience as a design engineer in the AV integration environment. Now, even though the person they're looking for should have at least 5 years experience as a design engineer, they're looking for someone with hands-on practical experience as well. Someone whose hands have been in fabrication of racks and building sites on, preparing sites, terminations and doing the calibrations of the audio and the video equipment itself. Someone who's quite familiar with Crestron and AMX control systems. Someone who understands how to configure a codec, for instance, not just how to spec a codec, but can configure a codec. Someone who can configure a DSP also. So they're looking for someone who's been in the field and at the same time can sit down and calculate and formulate the design on paper of what their clients need. This person should have a CTS, at least a CTS certification, but preferably a CTSD. And if not, then they're asking that you do have the CTS within at least 6 months of employment with them.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, the basic variables as well. Some sort of project management background, some CAD experience, proven track record on providing turnkey solutions, and an ability to work with all the teams within the company, and especially, of course, with customers. Yeah. So someone who understands how to meet a customer, a high-end customer, have a good conversation with them, and yet make that customer feel as though they're with the right company and they're working with the right vendor.
Wow. This is a very very well-rounded person, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
If this is you, and you either want to or live in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area, how would they go about applying for this job?
Well, what I like to suggest is that you visit our website, avjoblistings.com. That's www.avjoblistings.com. And you can do a search by location for the area, for the Cary, North Carolina area. And it should bring up for you the few listings in that area. And you'll notice that that you'll see AV Engineer. When you click on the AV Engineer, at the bottom of the page is a how to apply area. You can apply online through the website, or there's an email address there as well for the contact at AVCon, and you can apply directly to that email address as well, whichever you should choose.
Okay. So the website is avjoblistings.com. This week's Job of the Week is an audio-visual, an AV engineer, at least 5 years. If you have your CTS, wonderful. If you have your CTSD, even better. Marty, thank you very much. avjoblistings.com. Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great day.
We're back with AV Week. With us this week is Gary Kay from Rave Pubs, Craig McCormick from Commercial Integrator, and Adrian Boyd from Vector Sketch. Craig, you wrote an article about doctors and tablets and how that's creating work for integrators, and it was a survey that CompTIA did, where these doctors said that improving the use of mobile technologies, and we'll throw tablets into mobile part, was either a high or mid-level priority. You put in there that you kind of see this as a job possibility for AV guys. Go ahead and kind of expound on that. How do you see this as a possibility?
Well, one of the interesting things is that a lot of the people in the survey were solo practitioners, so they small doctors' offices. So they're just kind of getting into technology and the idea of how it can benefit them. That actually was pretty evident in the idea of security, that a lot of them kind of didn't think about the ramifications of putting some patient information on their mobile devices, and the fact that they could be compromised by doing that if they didn't have the right security. So security integrators definitely will have some opportunity to benefit from that, but I just think it's something that more and more doctors and folks in the healthcare industry are going to be benefiting from. And another point that the survey made is that at med school, using iPads and other mobile devices for education. They're taking classes, whether it's right on their iPad or using their iPad, to while they're in a class. It's becoming more and more interactive. So that there's lots of ways that integrators can get involved. One thing that was interesting is that telemedicine seemed to be a pretty low priority for folks right now. It's just not something that they're interested in. And
so no VTCs.
Excuse me?
So no video conferencing systems.
No, not too much. It's just I think that's kind of a function of the fact that the audience was, like I said, a lot of these small time operations.
Do you think that this is because of the aging of the medical industry? Like, you got these younger guys now, like you said, that they're taking classes with iPads. They're graduating with their MDs, and it's just like with anything else in society. I mean, we've talked about this before, where our kids and our young people, the generation behind us, they're going to be used to this technology, so they expect to see it everywhere they go.
Right. That's exactly the reason, actually. That I asked that exact question. So, they said that basically that the younger people, they're used to working with technology and having it available to them at all times. So they're going to want to have it where they're working too, and so that's just going to create more opportunities. So,
Gary, is this an area where that is exclusively AV, or is this something we're going to have to battle the IT guys again, just like digital signage?
It's going to be dominated by the IT guys, and because the reason why this is actually happening, which he mentioned in the article but didn't mention on here, is electronic medical records. That's the whole reason what's driving this, is that there's a tax benefit for them to use, to go to electronic medical records. And that's why doctors' offices are moving this direction, is simply because they can get that tax benefit and actually buy it at a time where it won't cost them what they're actually paying for it. In fact, they can get the entire thing paid for in some cases.
Really?
So, so it's going to be driven by the IT segment because they are the ones that hold the technology on the electronic medical records connectivity points.
Adrian, is this where having, and I don't know if I've ever asked this question before, would it make sense then for an AV company to bring on IT people and have their own IT department? Or is it better served to partner with a strictly IT company that doesn't have an AV? So you guys are kind of symbiosis.
I think it's a great idea for any AV company to bring someone on who's got some IT background. I mean, it's...
But not a whole department, maybe.
I think it all depends on how you as a company look at what you're going to be doing going forward. You know, there's a lot of AV firms that have gone, that have purchased communication companies or partnered with communication companies because they've seen it as a way to increase the revenue share. Other companies that say, we're going to find a guy with an RCDD, or we're going to bring someone who's got a really good IT background on board to kind of help us with those infrastructure things. Because at the end of the day, it is about it's not about, the tablet or the box. It's about the infrastructure, and everything else kind of goes into it. I mean, I don't know when the last time I walked into a doctor's office and actually saw them hold a chart. It's all on a computer, and at least the ones here in the St. Louis area, they have a monitor on a swing arm, you got a keyboard and a mouse, and they've got an extremely small form factor computer that, could potentially even be a cloud-based type of computer. And, they're logging into a system that's got your entire medical records. That thing, they're sending, they're doing secure prescription sending. They are able to do, tracking you as a patient, or, looking at drug interactions. I mean, all these things, is supposedly to make it better for you. And it's now just coming into play, and it's actually starting to work. When a lot of this started to happen, in 2000, and they were running around with big, bulky, Microsoft tablets, and the systems didn't work, and the infrastructure wasn't there, and there were issues, and there were problems, and now everything's just starting to congeal. And when we talk about telemedicine, I think it depends on where you are in the medical network. Teaching institutions they're definitely trying to leverage a lot of this because I've seen some teaching establishments where they have high feeds into an operating theater at a hospital they're partnered with. Now they're teaching their class. We're doing this open heart surgery today. We have Dr. So and so, and he's going to walk us through the procedure. Definitely. AV companies getting involved in this, and making it work is definitely beneficial. But on the same side, medicine and AV is a different animal altogether. You can't slap on your, that cheapo display. You have to look at products that go in an operating room. They have to meet certain specifications and guidelines. And you really have to be on the ball to make sure it happens and to do it correctly.
Well, not only for latency, but also for bacteria and stuff
latency,
like that.
bacteria. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and the more an AV company can get read up and understand what makes it happen and be well versed in HIPAA.
I hate HIPAA.
It's just another feather in the cap that makes them a more advantageous company to work with. And the same thing with consultants. Yeah. The more you know and the more you can bring to the table, the more you can definitely keep working.
HIPAA is a I don't know. It has its benefits, but there are some problems with it. So we'll go on to another story before I get myself in trouble. This is from Lean Technica. This is cool to me just because it's green. And it's also some sci-fi. They wrote an article about quantum dot solar cell improvements. I'm going to make it really simple. This is paint on solar cells. Who's going to go out and buy the first gallon of this? Gary, you do a lot with green AV. Is this the latest greatest thing, or is this kind of a pipe dream, and we should be more into actual solid-backed, stable stuff.
I love all the new stuff. I don't know if I'd be the one to paint this on my body.
Not on your body, but on like the east side of your house. Every morning your house gets charged up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I'd want to get too close to that. But, I mean, listen, the problem with solar panels is they just are hideously ugly, and I don't understand why companies that build tiles for your roof of your house don't build solar technology into those, because everybody has to have those on the top of their house, and there's lots of.
Hasn't Owens Corning developed that yet? They've developed a ceiling tile shingle with a solar panel built into it.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to happen as quickly as possible, because I think that's the thing. And see, the thing is that conceptually, if you look forward 50 years from today, then all of us will be contributing to the power grid by all the energy that we were generating that we weren't using, and giving back, and we'd be trading energy and saving money that way, and saving the environment and so on and so forth. But we got to start somewhere. So hey, let's give all the technologies a shot, in my opinion.
Well, and here the thing what makes this interesting is it's based on nanotechnology. I mean, these are nanocells that somebody has figured out a way to put them in the right kind of goop, in where they stay relatively uniformly separated, so the electricity is passing through. So, yeah. I mean, I think this is fascinating, and nanotechnology in general is fascinating. So,
yeah, something's going to come along, and one of these technologies is going to be successful, especially if you get big money behind it. So,
I think one of the big objections with solar panels always seems to be the price, and that seems to be a stumbling block for a lot of people. So I'd be interested to see what it would cost to do this, and put it on the roof of your house, like you were saying, or in your shingles or something like that. However it may be applied. It doesn't mention in the article what the cost would be or anything like that. I'd be kind of interested in that.
Well, yeah, right now I don't know, but to me it sounds a little bit more feasible to run down and grab a gallon of this at Lowe's or Home Depot than it does to throw $20,000 at throwing panels on your roof. So.
Yeah, and it's still in the research stage. I mean, there's two universities, one in Canada and one in Pennsylvania, that are still, it's vaporware. It's cool vaporware, but it's still vaporware.
All right. Well, let's talk about it's not like vaporware, but two different Android or not even Android, Google TV Android remote controls. One is about the Logitech, and kind of basically this is the new guy throwing the old guy under the bus. The new CEO of Logitech basically went on record as saying, that whole little Google TV remote control cost us $100 million. Ow, Craig, that hurts no matter how much you shake it. I mean, I don't have $100 million, but if I did, I wouldn't want to lose it. Is this? And they even go on to say that the new guy says that we're done. Basically, we're done with Google TV. Cost us $100 million. We're out. Is this going to hurt Google TV? Because the way I'm seeing Google TV now is it's actually getting stable and cool.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to hurt it. I don't think that people who are interested in buying Google TV will be have any concern about how Logitech is doing and whether. They're losing money at all. I think it's going to be consumer driven, certainly. So, I don't think it'll hurt it.
It wasn't really the fact that they're losing money, but the fact that they're getting out of it. Is that going to hurt the Google TV?
No, I don't believe so.
Adrian, in addition to that, we also had a story about Motorola creating a Google an Android based TV controller. My initial thought is, well, duh, because Google's buying them. So Logitech gets out, Motorola moves in. Is that kind of how it works?
It could very well be. I mean, when I saw Google TV, it was kind of like, oh, look, me too. They're competing in a you've got Roku's, you've got Boxies, you've got Apple TVs, you've got, a lot of streaming devices, and Google TV was kind of going, well, we can do all of that and bring a Google search engine too.
But that's valid.
It is valid, but I kind of look at it as this is, remember back when Microsoft did Web TV?
Yes, I do.
It's kind of the same thing. It's neat. I mean, they're trying to leverage, broadcasters and so on in certain types of content, but it's just quite hasn't synced yet. The only two companies that actually had anything as part of this was Sony with a television, and then Logitech came out with a box that was $300, and then they decided that was way too high, and it came out about $99. So.
And it was still too high because nobody bought them.
Kevin Bacon aside, I don't think they really, it wasn't quite, the primetime players, for the market right now, especially when you got your hands on it and you played with it and you realized that it just was kind of it left you wanting more. Quite honestly, it just really, left a bad taste in your mouth. I mean, it just didn't work the way they had advertised it.
But that's kind of how what Google does. I'm not being hateful, but that's between Wave and the first couple Android phones. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have an Android phone now, and it's great and it's wonderful. But it's a far cry from the first Android phone that came out. I mean, that thing was horrendous. It didn't have many features. It ran slow. It ate up battery life. Is this something where the people who, like Gary said earlier, are just Apple haters and they don't want anything iOS, that they're going to have to wait around for Google to kind of find themselves when it comes to TV?
Could be. I mean, when we look at Google as a company, they have a lot of hits and they have a lot of misses, and they do some things really, really well, and then they just do some other things. It almost reminds me of Pixar's film Up. Where you've got the dogs go, "Ooh, squirrel."
You know who they remind me of? Craig will appreciate that. They remind me of Babe Ruth, because he was also the strikeout king. So nothing, Craig, nothing.
It's Red Sox off season, and there's so many things going on right now with them.
Hey, Tim?
Yes, sir.
To talk about them.
This is Gary. Here's the deal with this. The only people that want to browse the web on their television are old, ugly, fat people. So regular people don't want to browse the internet on their television. People want, if you're going to bring an app to the TV that makes sense, like, for example, launching Netflix so that you can stream movies so that you don't have to switch inputs on your TV, that's what's going to be popular. Like, for example, the feature missing in the Apple TV is the perfect box for the simple, or even the Roku box is perfect for the user that all they're wanting to do is watch movies and television shows at their whim.
Yeah.
But the feature that both those boxes are missing, and the reason why they haven't gained giant acceptance rather than just decent acceptance, is HDMI pass-through.
Yeah.
And that's because people don't understand the concept of switching inputs. You add HDMI pass-through, you will have a home run product.
What?
So Google TV, they need to get rid of the keyboard, make it app-based, and have HDMI pass-through, and you've got a winner, because then you can put whatever is on that box that people really want to do, like watch TV or interact with people via Twitter, so that they can talk to each other while live on a show, or kind of not really talk to each other, but more comment on
but interact
what
with
people
each
are
other.
saying. Yeah, and interact with people. They don't want to browse. No one wants to browse the internet on their TV. You can do that on your phone. So what's the point?
The funny thing Gary mentions that is, my wife and I were watching a television program the other night, and you know what we were doing? We're watching the show, and I'm on my iPad, and she's on her iPad, and we're doing our own thing. So we're not really watching the program. We're kind of hearing the program like radio.
It's
We're
just in the
doing
background.
something else at the same time. And I think a lot of people are doing that now. They're on their phone, they're on their device, and they're surfing the web, or they're looking up something. The show was House, and they said a medical term, like, oh, what the heck is that? A medical
But
term.
keep in mind,
Squirrel!
Exactly.
But keep in mind that this is all stuff aimed to old people, because people below the age of 25 are primarily watching or being entertained by their portable devices, not by the magic enchanted box hanging on the wall.
Yep.
So this stuff only is going to attract old people. Google TV version 2, Apple TV's next version of the Apple TV is not going to be something purchased by 20-somethings. It's going to be purchased by 40-somethings because we need something, or we're looking for something that simplifies that process and does what we want because our eyes or whatever it's too difficult for us to see, or this is the way we're traditionally programmed to go to the room that has the enchanted box, sit down in front of it at 9 p.m. on Wednesday and watch it and watch that show. This is, you know, they have to rethink television. This is what Apple's been really good at. This is what Sony's been really good at historically. And this is what companies like Nintendo have been really good at historically. And that is hitting on sort of the future direction that people are going in their different environments like gaming. And as soon as Apple and Sony think about, okay, how is the new way to watch television shows or absorb content, they'll come up with a much better box.
Just for clarification, Gary, what exactly is an old person? Like what age?
Well, I mean, I think the fact of the matter is you sort of have a generational gap there. Between,
You do.
Say, I mean, I think the world does. It has a generational gap between 30-something and below, or 30-year-olds and below. Sorry.
No. 30-something is fine. 30-something is fine.
Yeah. So I don't think 30-somethings are really absorbing content the way that 20-somethings are. It's different. They're still email is still their primary form of communication, whereas a 20-something email is not their primary form of communication. It's probably their third choice. It's instant message and then maybe direct messaging or mentioning on Twitter. Or Facebook, and email's third. But in the case of 30-something and 40-something, email is first. In the case of 50 and 60-something, phone is first, email might be second. So there's generational gaps there, and I think so. Like I said, companies like Sony and Apple have historically gotten that. Heck, Google hasn't even realized. Well, they've realized it now, but they aren't even addressing their biggest problem, which is that 53% of searches aren't being done on devices that internet searches aren't being done on devices that access Google. They're being done on devices like while you're inside Facebook, or even Siri's had an impact recently. Even the president of Google said that's had an impact in just a short period of time in their search. And people are searching within apps themselves. So I think that there's much bigger issues that they have than worrying about Google TV.
Yeah, and until they figure out how to capitalize on that. Real quick, you guys had something that I wanted to get to, and I'll go to it because you mentioned the HDMI pass-through, and that's the HD video conferencing for $200. Biscotti, the company, this to me is genius. This is the best buying, I guess, of video conferencing, because you have a device, it's $200, you throw it on your TV, it has HDMI pass-through. And so you're watching TV, somebody calls you, you can either obviously answer it or ignore it. But this reminds me of one of my dear friends. He'd been friends for years and years and years. I remember one of the first times I went over to his house, his dad has always been a technophile. And this is in 86, 87. He has a big screen TV, as big screen as it was back then, one of the old consoles, and had his telephone ran through the television somehow to where when someone called them, they had caller ID pop up on their TV, and he could either answer it or obviously ignore it. This reminds me of that, where you're just sitting back and you're doing the whole lean back thing, and somebody calls you and says, you can do instant video message or instant video conferencing right there.
Right, and this technology's been around for 4 or 5 years, technically, but they've hit the nail on the head by having HDMI pass-through. And it's good that they waited until HDMI worked out all their bugs and what they were going to allow and not allow with the different versions. So now that they have the current version will allow everything. It's very specific on what you need to pass and what you don't need to pass, and it's downwardly compatible. But as soon as they add Skype to this will be a holy grail home run, or they add Apple iChat or any of these other standards-based systems or non-standards-based systems. So then, right now they've got Google Mail or Google Video, and then they've got their own system. So it's going to be successful because the majority of people who are interested in this have Gmail accounts already. But you add Skype to it, it'll be a home run.
Yeah, you add Skype to this, and you're right, because that's not a standard, but it's almost a default. If you do any kind of
by adding the word Skype there, then you explain what the product does, because
Yeah.
there's still a generational gap between the term video conferencing, where people that are over the age of 40 don't exactly know what that means.
Well, that's not really true because, if you watched Oprah, you knew what Skype was.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You add the word Skype, and all of a sudden everybody understands what it is.
Yeah, that is true.
Whereas right now they can't use the word Skype because it's not Skype compatible.
Oh, okay.
But it will be. I mean, because it's moving more towards UC-based, standards-based conferencing system because of Microsoft. So.
A few weeks ago, I took issue with a press release on a website, and I'm going to be somewhat conceited here. This is how you handle a press release. The paper in front of me. Extron from Anaheim, California. A new concept in mounting hardware for application utilizing 1/2 rack width and smaller products is available. This, to me, is genius for the education market. And this is the part where I say this is how you handle a press release. This is a cool product, and I say for the education, and I don't see this happening in boardrooms necessarily, but for anybody who's ever tried to fit, an IN 1508 or something else into a podium, this is awesome. IN 1508 is probably the wrong one because that one's a full rack width, but some other Extron or anybody else product where it's a half rack, and you've got a small podium where the professor walks up with his book or his tablet or whatever and plops it down and does his lecture from there. But you still need to get the audio and you still need to get some kind of video back to the actual main rack. This is awesome. Craig, do you see this being something where consultants or contractors spec this for not just education but for other applications?
Yeah, education definitely. You're right on the money with that. I think it would definitely work there, and other applications where there are podiums and things like that involved. I can definitely see this having a lot of potential and finding a lot of ways to use it.
All right, Gary, do you see this as not just for Extron products, but for other guys as well? Because not everybody makes their stuff in a full rack width.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds stupid to be talking about a product like this, but in fact, what Extron's done with something simple like this is keep you in the Extron ecosystem, and so therefore, there are people that will buy things just for the simplicity's sake and the fact that everything fits well together. And this was a piece that was missing, and just keeps you in that ecosystem. So, well,
not just that. There was times where I've had done jobs for guys where they've had to fabricate, inside, and this eliminates that part.
Yeah, I mean they clearly listened to their customers and came out with that based on feedback and saying what, since all these people are asking about, let's just do it. So. It's like I said, it sounds stupid to be talking about something like that, but it is going to have an impact because of again, we come back to the word simple.
Yeah. Real quickly, two things real quick, just so we can mourn the passing of CRTs. It's not that I don't think anybody makes them anymore, but Peerless stopped selling, or is going to stop. I'm sorry. They're going to stop selling their mounts for CRTs by the end of this year. Is anybody surprised or saddened more than me?
No.
Come on, I like my CRTs.
I still got a nice CRT in the basement, but the can't find them. It's hard to find them anymore. And
you can't find them anymore. No, it's not hard. You can't find them.
Well, there's still a couple companies that make these small form factor, 13-inch type of things.
I don't want a 13-inch TV.
But the large scale, you're really not finding. I mean, when
my
Sony
5-year-old doesn't want a 13-inch for crying out loud.
When Sony shut their plant down, a few years back, I mean, everyone kind of saw the writing on the wall. What's kind of funny is there's a huge market. It's kind of a niche market for CRT projectors. Relamping them, building new power supplies. I mean, you just type in CRT, and there's tons of little DIY companies making them and doing all sorts of stuff with that. So, CRT still has some legs in the projection world, but it's really niche. But
really expensive. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of a barcode that was sold 10, 12 years ago. You're looking at $20,000, $25,000 for a
Probably
3
doesn't
Canon.
work.
Yeah, probably more. Well, I'm talking. You're talking about the cost of what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? I priced out replacing a Barco 3 Canon, and it was going to cost $6,000 or $7,000 per Canon.
Yeah.
So my math's not the greatest in the world, but you're looking about 15, 18 grand to recondition this thing when I can buy an Epson for $5,000 that has 3 times as many lumens.
You know, and you know, there's what's kind of funny is you know, when we're talking about a lot of these guys are trying to figure out how to get HDMI into these things to their life.
Jeez.
So they're custom building
man.
boards for these things. You know, they're buying chips, they're making stuff, and
So
you
these
know,
are just Frankensteins then.
and some of them are. But I mean, there's a lot of companies that you know they still have a good inventory of tubes for projectors, and they're holding on to them like light bulbs.
All right. From Jason Knott, Craig, your buddy Jason Knott wrote this. After 32 years, Monster Cable Products Incorporated has officially changed its name to Monster, and shortly thereafter filed suit against the Cookie Monster and Monster.com.
Yes.
I hate Monster Cables. I'm sorry. Craig, is this a big deal, or is this just, some Yahoo, high-end cable company changing their name?
I would say it's probably the latter, although I'm not sure I would describe it quite that way. I don't think it's a big deal at all. I think probably most people that who worked with them, most of their customers probably called them Monster anyway, and didn't realize their full name was Monster Cable Product anyway. I don't really think it's going to change anything. It sounds like the purpose of it was to kind of make people aware that they sell more than cable products, and kind of expand their customer base. But I don't think it's going to change a whole heck of a lot, to be honest.
Gary, this is my perception, and I could be wrong. I don't get the perception that Monster is a pro AV cable guys. I mean, Jason wrote this in CE Pro, so it's more of a Resi kind of story. But I don't know. Every person I've ever talked to about Monster Cables, from I say the fact that they filed suit against Cookie Monster and Monster.com tongue in cheek, but they have a history of just pissing people off by suing them because they're using the word monster, and then their cables are in my opinion outrageously expensive. So does anybody in the industry really use them, or am I just jaded?
Well, you know what? The one thing you got to give them credit for is that they are a marketing company, not a manufacturer. They have marketed themselves into a position where you assume high quality with them, and I have to give them kudos. I mean, they are a good example of sort of marketing 101 on how to market your brand, because people will go in and instead of buying the $11 6-foot HDMI cable that is branded by Best Buy, or even the $30 gold version of the Best Buy cable, they'll buy the Monster one for $60 because it has the Monster brand next to it. So it's better branding through marketing, and hey, if they can do it, more power to them. I have nothing against. If you can charge whatever you want to charge, you should be able to charge whatever you want to charge, regardless of the quality. Because the best product isn't always the market-leading product, but sometimes it's the better marketing. I mean, Bose sells a hell of a lot of audio systems to people because they have a much better marketing position than most other manufacturers of the same type of stuff.
Agreed.
So, I mean, that's why I look at it, as I see them as, I have to give them credit for being a marketing company. I mean, they are not a manufacturer, and they're not creative in their manufacturing. They're very good at marketing their products and branding them such that you assume there's quality related to them. Car manufacturers do it all the time. I mean, people pay more money for cars just because of their brand. So. Yeah,
and then there's a number of Monsters products that, they don't make them, then somebody else makes them, and they just slap their name on it. There's a lot. We have a lot of manufacturers that do that. So they do our marketing. I mean, if you've ever sat down with the owner of Monster and listened to one of his seminars, it is it's marketing. And they're really good at what they do.
I'll give them that. Never thought of it that way. All right. This has been AV Week. Adrian Boyd, he is from Vector Sketch. Thank you much, sir.
Thank you.
Your Twitter, is that what we want to promote here? The _AV_CAD_guy.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Awesome. He's from Vector Sketch. Check him out. He does basically explain it to people again.
What we do is we work with integrators, consultants, architects, and we do AV design, engineering, and AutoCAD documentation. So the pretty pictures you need to build a system, that's what we do, and we draw them, and we help make all of that happen.
Excellent. Also with us has been Craig McCormick. Craig is from Commercial Integrators. Craig, yours is Craig McCormick, correct?
That's it.
At Craig McCormick, or just check him out on Commercial Integrators website. And also the ever lovely and venerable Gary K.
Man, I got to pay you next time. Awesome.
I've said this more than once, but I eventually I'm going to have to start paying you for as many rave pubs guys I've had on here. But if you don't know about them, go to the website ravepubs.com or follow them on Twitter at ravepubs. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I had a great time. I appreciate being on here.
My name is Tim Albright. If you would like to follow me, mine is TD, Tim David Albright, ALBRIGHT. But more importantly, please go to the website. Website is AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. We have a couple surveys up there for you to tell us what you think, tell us what to do, tell us how to make this thing better for you. But after that, there's also all kinds of different podcasts, both the past ones and in the next couple of weeks, we have a couple of side projects working. So go to the website and check it out, avnation.tv. That's all the time we have for AV Week.